This news might be almost depressing to hear, but a lot of times the things that my students struggle with the most isn't necessarily a vowel sound or a consonant sound or breath or where to project from, but just expressing basic human emotions tends to be very, very difficult for people, and they don't even know it. So, for instance, I'm going to put some sentences here. I'm going to put them in the chat for those of you who are watching on the video. Just take a moment to look at these sentences to yourself. Just kind of read them to yourself for a moment. And I'm going to give you an emotion to say. I want you to say each of these sentences in a way that sounds happy. Just how do you say each of these sentences and show to your listener that you sound happy? So I would encourage you to even pause the live stream right now and just kind of do that exercise. Even better would be recording yourself to see how you sound. And then we're going to be talking about this because over the weekend, so we have a pronunciation group on Telegram, and basically what we do in that group is every day they can send in audio files, and then I give them feedback. And then on the last couple Sundays of the month, we also have a session where they can come on screen and they get to talk with me, with our group coaching students as well. And so this is what we did over the weekend. I gave them sentences to say, and I said, "Hey, I want you to sound angry." And it was really hard. People had a very hard time expressing the specific emotion when they were saying these sentences. And so today, I want to target happiness and joy because we need to start the week off right with some positive vibes. So hopefully by the end of this little stream today, you'll be able to say these in a way that sounds happy and you can feel confident about that. Good morning, guys. Good evening. Good afternoon. Welcome to your daily American English pronunciation show. Wake up, American. We are here Monday through Friday, typically around 8 a.m. New York, to make sure that you can get in your 5 to 10 minutes of pronunciation practice for the day. Because that's what it takes if you're really serious about pronunciation. It takes showing up for yourself, investing time in yourself to get you to that sound that you want. That tends to be the biggest hurdle students have, not necessarily the physical things. Because pronunciation, look, there's not physically anything different than me and you. So a lot has to do with just, the habits we're putting in, the psychology and things like that. So we want to help you in that regard. To guide you in this process, there is me. Hello, my name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath. It's one of the 4 keys to natural sound, including placement, pitch, breath, and trying to weaken your consonant sounds, strengthen your vowel sounds. Today, especially with relation to pitch, that's going to be a very useful tool for us in breath as well. Hello to Believe is with us too. Saying the best English coach on YouTube. Oh, Believe. Thank you for the kind words. I greatly appreciate that. For saying that. Okay. So hopefully you made that recording of yourself saying these sentences. The first sentence being, I can't believe it worked. The second one saying, this is the best day ever. And the third one saying, you shouldn't have. Okay, and our goal today is we want to make sure that these sound happy. And there's so many different ways you can do this, right? There's not necessarily only one right answer. You may think, for instance, that one way you can show happiness is through the use of higher pitches. In general, when you use higher pitches in English, what that does is it conveys a brighter emotion to your listener, be that like nervousness, excitement, surprise, but also joy. So using some of those higher pitches is going to be really effective for that. But there are other options too. You don't necessarily have to go crazy high. So we'll try to read these in a couple different ways. And I would encourage you to try to shadow to see if you can copy what I'm doing. Believe also mentioned I love weakening consonants. Learn that from you. I appreciate that. It makes a difference, right? When your consonant sounds get a little softer, then your vowel sounds get more space. It makes a pretty big difference in terms of the quality of what you say. Yeah, it makes a very big difference when you give space to your vowels and less space to your consonants. It makes a big difference. So let's say each of these with a high pitch, trying to show happiness through a high pitch. Okay. And we also want to be careful with this too, because we don't want to sound like sarcastic. We want to sound like genuinely happy. And this is one issue that I see a lot with students is that they try to sound happy, but it actually sounds like they're annoyed or they're frustrated. Okay. So our first one, I can't believe it worked. I can't believe it worked. Okay, something like that if we're using a high pitch. What's up also to Mattia? Great to see you as always. I can't believe it worked. How about our next one? This was the best day ever. This was the best day ever. And then our last one, you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. Okay, so again, these are all examples of happiness with some relatively high pitches there. Okay. A quick note on that last one that you probably want to go with the stress on shouldn't. So instead, it's not like you shouldn't have, more like you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. Let's do it one more time with the high pitches. I can't believe it worked. This was the best day ever. You shouldn't have. Okay? So that's one option. What are some other options that we have? So those were extra high pitch. We maybe want to sound happy, but maybe not to that degree of happiness. So another way, maybe we could go a little bit lower on the pitch, like, I can't believe it worked. Again, I can't believe it worked. One of the things you will see is that the general pitch level drops, but we're still using some higher pitches. Like, I can't believe it worked. Like the worked going higher. Okay, this was the best day ever. This was the best day ever. And you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. Okay, so again, you're going to hear on those stressed words, still touching on some higher pitches there. We want to make sure that's happening. Okay. I mentioned before that you have to be careful because if you read these the wrong way, it doesn't necessarily sound genuinely happy. What are some examples of that? Well, if you're like, I can't believe it worked, that doesn't really sound happy. I can't believe it worked. Okay. This was the best day ever. That's going to sound sarcastic. Okay. If you're like, this was the best day ever, that's sort of like shifting there. Okay. You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. That again doesn't sound happy. That you're giving your person you're talking to a little bit of an attitude when you do that. So I would definitely ask you to compare between the first groups that we did and the last group. Okay. I believe does have a quick question for us. What's the difference between pitch and stress? Is it saying words longer and louder? Pitch and stress are not the same thing. We do have videos that talk about this, but to give a quick rundown of the difference, pitch is the frequency of the sound. Stress is the word that receives emphasis in a thought group. To show stress, we raise the pitch compared to what came before it. Okay. Pitches can go higher. They can also go lower. It's like when I do like this, 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 this. Those were a series of different pitches. And also like this, 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 this. Those were also pitches, that case moving down. Stress is the word you emphasize. To show stress, you raise the pitch. So if I say this, you can hear if I say, do you see I went down in 3 pitches? If I say this, and then I went up in pitch on this. If I say this. Okay, so they're certainly connected. You need pitch to convey stress, specifically higher pitches to convey stress, but they're not exactly the same thing, right? Hopefully that helped. Okay. Let's maybe read this one final way. Let's do it happy, but maybe with some lower pitches. So if we use lower pitches, speaking of lower pitches, can we still make this sound happy? Okay, and maybe this will also probably be tied into other emotions too, for instance, like relief and things like that. But again, sticking with the positive sorts of emotions. Okay? It's like, I can't believe it worked. I can't believe it worked. Something like that, right? So it's much lower in pitch compared to before. Or how about the next one? This was the best day ever. This was the best day ever. Okay. It may also help as you do these too, since we're focusing on happiness and joy. It may help to smile a little bit as you say these. Okay, so like even like smile for like 5 or 10 seconds before you talk. So let's kind of do that for our last one. So I'm just gonna smile 5 seconds, and then we're gonna read this last one. Okay, let's get your body involved, smile, and then you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. Okay. And it's really key to use those higher pitch because if you don't go high enough, you're like, you shouldn't have. It's a little bit too flat. Sounds a lot more serious and firmer in tone. If you want to make that softer in tone and emotion, go higher. You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. Can you hear the difference between those? You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. These things make a huge difference in terms of the experience you're conveying to your listeners. So definitely pay attention to those. I believe says grazie a tutti. Certo. Grazie a te. Grazie per la domanda. All right, guys. So continue practicing with saying things with different emotions. One exercise I gave to students in our group class was I said, "Hey, my big suggestion would be if you're serious about trying to work on conveying emotion in your speech, and I really hope that that's something you're putting value on because it's really important because most things you say have some sort of emotional value. Doesn't have to be like a lot, but even if it's like slightly angry, slightly happy, slightly excited, slightly frustrated, these are a lot of things that we say have some sort of emotional value to them. I would recommend watching a cartoon. It's like an anime show that you like. Pick a scene that has some emotion involved. Like maybe the characters are really excited, maybe they're nervous, maybe they're afraid, maybe they're angry. Pick a scene that has some specific emotion. The scene doesn't have to be long, like 5 seconds is plenty. And then shadow what they say. So in that 5 second scene, play it 10 times, repeat it 10 times. Record yourself as you do that to make sure you're hitting all the same voice patterns and things that they're doing. The other thing I would say as well with that is one of the reasons I'm saying use the cartoons because cartoons they also for the faces they tend to exaggerate the facial expressions. So like if they're angry, they're like they go real angry. Or like, if they're surprised, they go real surprised, right? You see that in the drawings they do for the faces. Try to copy the faces they make, okay, as best you can, because that's also going to tie in to how you pronounce these things as well. With that, guys, I will be back tomorrow morning with more Wake Up American. Thank you for being with us. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. There's a million pronunciation resources out there. So the fact you spent some time with us is appreciated. Also, just want to highlight that we did one pitch workshop. We got another one coming up this week. Pitch is very much connected to all the things we talked about today. You see, we have a session that's going to be coming up on June 27th, 8:30 to 10. I have a couple seats left for on screen. So if you want to be on screen with me and get some feedback from me on how you're using pitch, it'd be great to work with you there. We model comedians and storytellers in American English, people who need pitch in order to convey things effectively to their audience. So it'd be great to see you there. You can go to fluentamerican.com to register if that sounds like something that interests you. Beyond that, I will see you all later. You guys have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon. Take care.